Hello everyone. I built this zoo in vanilla survival Valheim, and I've tried to do kind of a wrought iron thing, but I thought it would look good with like the fir trees because wrought iron and pine trees just seem to go together. But I tried planting them in these medians and they didn't quite look right. So I will say that the resource cost wasn't too bad because I already had most of the resources. I already had the iron, most of it. I already had 100% of the stone. I already had half the wood, almost all of the tar. I had to only drain 3 tar pits to get the rest of what I needed. I will say the most laborious part of building this was the ballista turrets. So as you can see, I have some turrets that I built with 8 ballistas each. And I was able to build around 2.5 turrets with what I had on hand from ballistas I had already crafted and just relocated here. However, I quickly ran out of eitr, and it was going to be a huge pain in the ass to get it because I'm awful at combat in this game. But my brother, when I lamented to him that I had to get all the eitr, he went into a single player world and just gathered like 80 eitr for me, which was huge. So I had around 640 hours when I started building this, and then building non-stop I'm at around 720 hours now, both on this, just all the hours are on this character alone. So even though I already had most of the resources, it took me around 90 hours. So I will walk you through each enclosure and what makes it unique, I guess. So also the ballista turrets, there's one for each enclosure, and it's positioned 15 meters away from these ballistas. This is because they have a range of 14 meters, meaning that if anything is between these two ballistas, the turrets and these ballistas, it will be targeted by a minimum of 4 ballistas at any one time, and or 3 ballistas, and then a maximum of 5. And I tested this. These are all set to target seekers, and I tested this by aggroing some seekers and dragging them in here, and then letting the seekers get destroyed. So this is my serpent. When I captured the serpents, what I did was I had my brother lasso the serpent with a harpoon, and then he dragged it into the enclosure while I smacked down a stone wall to entrap him. The serpents that spawn during the day in thunderstorms do not despawn, so this one was the more difficult one to get. However, it took me not very long. It took maybe 3 attempts, and I died twice, but it only took me, I'm gonna guess, like maybe 3 hours. I'm gonna say 3 hours to get the serpent after I built the enclosure. And I did try to do some like hanging lanterns. You'll see here I have a whole bunch of lanterns. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them, but I did try to do some hanging lanterns in this build. However, I just couldn't get them to look quite right. I think it's because the wrought iron fences are raised. And also, I want to show, so you can also enter the walls of each enclosure and view the creatures through the windows, which I don't particularly care for, but it is doable. The next enclosure is the most boring and unimpressive. It's just wolves and boar, because I figure they're a creature that I can corral that doesn't despawn. I might as well, right? Make the zoo more complete. And then next is also a slightly more difficult, but also not very difficult. It's locks, tamed locks. And to get the locks, what I had to do is I tamed them down here. Please ignore all the map markers, by the way. When I booted Steam or Valheim in big picture mode, it took away my map for some reason. So I had to use the cartography table to get my map back, which means I get everyone else's map markers. But I tamed the locks over here, and then I just boated the locks back. And the first locks was difficult because a serpent came right as I was docking, and I had to ride the locks in the opposite direction. And then the other locks was more straightforward, and then I landed here, rode them here, and it was, the rest is history. And then next is the abominations, and the abominations took me the longest to get out of all of these creatures. What I had to do, I'll show you the abominations, and then I'll tell you what I had to do. So these are the abominations, Polonius and Laertes, and what I had to do was build, so the first time I tried to lure an abomination, I tried to lure it from this swamp right here, right? And creatures like Fulings and Grey Dwarves and Trolls just slowly like wore it down over time until it died around right here. So I built this giant path with fenced in, what do you call them, stake walls, so that nothing could come attack the abominations. And then I had to build over this stretch of ocean. I think it took me around 5,000 stone, which I gathered from the mountains. I completely cleared out this and this mountain biome. And then there was a field, I think right here-ish. Or no, right here, there was a huge field of boulders that I used. And so the path probably took me around 100 hours to create. Maybe, I'm gonna guess, I mean, realistically it's likely more like 70 hours, but the path took forever. And then there's the trolls. Now I don't ever look at the trolls or aggro the trolls, because if I do, they will attack and destroy their enclosure. I've dug down to maximum low for the trolls so that they will mostly attack the terrain. However, nothing is perfect, and they have already destroyed part of the enclosure, as you can see to the far right side of this enclosure here. Over here, they've destroyed part of the enclosure. I'm not going to bother to try to fix it, because if I do, they will throw rocks and destroy even more. So, these are the trolls. As you can see, they're quite fond of... They have the reach. None of the other creatures have the reach. Now, as for the iron cost, I am using iron from 2 different worlds. I cleared most of the crypts in this world, and that were discovered, right? And I did not have enough iron, so I created a world, a single-player world, called Iron Farm. Oh, what's this? Oh, a deer must have spawned. I created a single-player world called Iron Farm, and I have cleared so many crypts from that world just to get the iron for this. And I don't have very much extra, so I'm thinking I'll spend some time, maybe like 5 hours or so, just gathering iron, so that I can be prepared for the ultimate iron cost that will happen when the new content, the Ashlands content, drops. So, this zoo, I spent 90 hours on this zoo with most of the materials. If I had to guess at a number that it took with gathering the materials and everything, I'm going to say around 300 hours. But I'm very inefficient, and I do not gather resources efficiently. I get sidetracked. I end up doing all these various tasks and odds and ends, so I really couldn't tell you how long this took me. I will say that building this thing is the only thing that motivated me to play this game. And now that it's over, I likely won't be playing this much until the new content drops. So, thank you for watching my video. I will be posting more builds and content in the future. If that's something you would like to see, please consider subscribing. I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe and hit the bell, because I find that obnoxious. You can do what you want. But yeah, so thanks for viewing. Bye. See you later.